Guys, it is truly a bizarre feeling to be like cozying up on my little chair just to moan for 20 minutes. Today we're going to be talking about books that BookTok loved, or just in general are beloved popular books that I really didn't like. And guys, I am nervous to talk about this. I feel like I'm generally quite neutral with books. Like if there's something I don't like, I'll usually just DNF it. These are the books that I probably should have DNF'd and just didn't. I think there's definitely a spectrum with these as well. Like some of these books I might have enjoyed, but maybe I just didn't get it the way BookTok got it. I don't even think I need to make a disclaimer to be like, I'm not judging anyone who likes these books, because I feel like you guys are going to be able to tell. I'm not judging you for liking this book. I have FOMO that I didn't like this book the way other people liked it. Some of them I'm like, no, I just really don't think I'd ever like this. Like I really didn't like it. But yeah, I just want to make this video to see if you guys felt this way about these very popular books, because yeah, I think it actually is like such a rubbish feeling when there's a book that everyone absolutely loves and adores, gave it 5 stars, and you're like, what did I miss? Please let me know what you guys thought of these books. If you have any books like this, let's just get moaning, I guess. Right, number 1 will come as no shock to anyone if you follow me on TikTok. The first book or book series we're going to be talking about today is the Zodiac Academy. Let me just bring you up to speed with my journey of the Zodiac Academy. So I remember hearing about this, and it was sort of like dark academia, this long series where like you really fall in love with the characters. There's multiple romances that we're following. I was like, that's exactly my type of book. Like I seriously was so excited to start it. I remember starting it and I liked the first book. There was definitely elements of it where I was like a little bit cringy, like you can tell it was written a while ago, but Nothing We Can't Handle. I was loving the aesthetic. I was loving just like the general vibes and feel of the book. I read the second book. Guys, there were times I literally had to put down the book to like stop being cringed out, because I found so many aspects of it so beyond cringy. For those of you who don't know, it follows two twin sisters. I can't remember why, but they like discover they have magic. They get sent to this like magic academy where there's all different types of groups of people and groups of magic. It's them kind of finding their way there, and you can't really trust anyone, and there's lots of romances and there's lots of love interest. The second book cringed me out so unbelievably. Guys, I'm not joking. See, after I read the second book, I had to pick up a non-fiction book. That is how badly I felt like, no, I need to like plant my feet firmly on the ground, because what did I just read? It was absolutely insane, and yeah, just genuinely so cringy. And I still read it and finished it, and then I was like, okay, I think I need a break before I can get into the third book of this series. I went back to the third book, and you know what, I just decided like life is too short to be reading this book, because it was once again cringing me out so sincerely. Maybe it was because more time had passed this time, where I was like, I was more aware of the cringe. Yeah, I physically like could not continue it. Because it is romances as well, it's really hard to root for the characters in the romances when they're all so cringy. So I did have to DNF that, and I was very vocal. I was like, you know what, this series might be for other people, it's just not for you. Next one is another romance series. This is another one I have been quite vocal about, even on here. That is the DC Stars Ice Hockey Romance series. Of course, people love this because it's on Kindle Unlimited, and it is just like, you know, typical ice hockey romance books. I loved the first book in the series, Face Off. I thought that was really good, really different to anything I've read. And then the second book in the series, I started to be like, this is a bit cringy. My issue with this, and I always need to be so careful how I phrase this, because I never want it to come off as though I'm like, I actually don't care about social issues, I don't want to hear about them in my books. It's not that at all. I feel like most of my favourite books include all of those things, but done in a very touching, meaningful way where you really like connect with what's being spoken about, you learn something, it changes your perspective. Within these books, I felt as though it was like a tick box. It felt very forced, it felt very cringy, like there was a lot of like Gen Z slang going on, which I cannot cope with in books. Hate TikTok slang and social media slang in books. One of the big things that are talked about is women in sports, because a lot of these women are like in sports or sports adjacent, and that's how they sort of come to be with the players. One of my favourite romance series is the Windy City series, so of course there's so much like women in sports in that. I really do find it quite hard to put my finger on what it is that when it's talked about in these books that makes it cringy. I think it could be definitely like the TikTok and Gen Z lingo that's used, but characters had to speak about it in every conversation. And the boys, have you ever seen those skits and it's like boys like trying to pretend that they're feminists to like basically sleep with a girl. So performative. That's what reading about these male characters in this book felt like to me. And actually I think I've just found like that is the exact word I've been trying to like describe this with, and it's performative. It felt performative to me. It felt over the top and it felt cringy. Like that's the only word I have to describe it. It's just cringy. It was too much. I really noticed it in the second book, but once again I kind of did enjoy elements of the story, so I was like, okay, I'll read the third book. It's good, just like a little free Kindle Unlimited, you know, book series, a little palette cleanser. And then when I read the third book, I absolutely hated it. I found it so boring, and then on top of it with the cringiness, I was like, I don't think I'm going to continue this series, which is a shame because I do love like a little Kindle Unlimited, ice hockey, like palette cleanser book. These ones were simply too cringe for me and I just could not keep going with it. Next, we're going to talk about my most recent 2-star book. This one genuinely devastates me that I didn't love this, because this is one of the most, if not the most popular and beloved Scottish book series of all time. The author is not Scottish, I believe, but it's all set in Scotland. You know, a lot of the time, like even being here in France, it's kind of the only like pop culture thing people know about Scotland. I am of course talking about Outlander. I finally read Outlander after so many years. It's crazy, I've never read it before and I've heard so much about it. I picked it up for a reading vlog last week. I was doing like a little Scottish reading vlog and I was so excited. I was a little bit nervous because it was almost 900 pages in the book, but from what I understood, it was like a historical romance. Basically, this girl Claire, her and her husband are honeymooning up in the Scottish Highlands. He somehow accidentally time travels back to 18th century Scotland where you have all the clans. She basically needs to make her way in this world, try and find her way home, but she's kind of like stuck there, so she starts building relationships and she actually has a romance with someone else. I like loved the concept of that. I feel like that's so up my street, and obviously the fact it's like set in Scotland as well. I was so excited to read it, and as I started reading it, I would say like the first 300-400 pages I was like, yeah, 500 to 700 pages, and first thing I was noticing, the writing is so detached and like emotionless for me. It's in first person, like we are in Claire's head, but I knew nothing about how Claire was feeling. It's very much telling you what's happening and not showing. I didn't feel like I knew Claire at all. I didn't feel any emotional connection to her, but still the story was like interesting enough that I was okay with that. An almost 900 page book, there are going to be so many boring scenes. I guess you could say, oh well, it's very character driven, and it is because you're just following these characters, sometimes doing crazy things but also just day-to-day lives, and we're getting so much dialogue, like mundane dialogue. And yeah, if you like the characters and you really connect to the characters, that's fine. Like I've read book series where I love the characters so much I could read thousands of pages of them just talking about the price of mints. Like that would be fine for me because I love those characters, but because I really felt so disconnected from the characters because of the writing style, I was like, I'm bored. In the last 200 pages, that for me was what really pushed me over to being like, I actually hate this. The entire time I was reading it, I was like, I can't tell if I like this or hate this. The last 200 pages, I was like, I hate this. For me, there was absolutely too much essay and violence of that sort. Of course, I expected there to be some, like, if we're being true to the time that this was set in. For me, it was used as a plot device all the time. It was put in at any opportunity, not just like mentions of it, like really graphic, upsetting stuff. Also, there was domestic violence between Claire and the person who we were supposed to be rooting for, that like she's in a romance with, and it was kind of just brushed off as like they just had a bad fight, which was really bizarre. I wasn't even so much like outraged by it as I was just reading it being like, how are people not talking about this? Like, it's such a beloved series. I genuinely feel like this is the type of thing TikTok would be up in arms about, and obviously it is very much like set in a time where that absolutely was normal. As a reader, I still don't feel like I can sit and like root for that and root for that man and them to be together. When I watched that, honestly, the entire thing left a really bad taste in my mouth. I was bored, I was disturbed, I was just like so over it. I genuinely gutted by it. I actually have been watching a little bit of the TV series, and I will tell you this, I'm enjoying the TV series a lot more than the book. I'm definitely getting like the whimsy, magical feeling that everyone gets when they read this series. I did not get that reading the book at all. But yeah, genuinely devastated that this like famous beloved Scottish series I was so excited to read was a 2-star for me. The next book I'm going to talk about is Nocticadia. Nocticadia is once again, kind of the same as like the Zodiac Academy, that just based off vibes was right up my street. It was like a dark academia romance. It was also kind of a forbidden romance because it was between a college student or like assistant and her professor. It was very slow burn. There was also quite an interesting side plot to it as well, which I did enjoy, but also completely grossed me out. Just in general though, do you ever read a book and it's like slow burn and you're rooting for this couple, and then when they get together you're like, I actually don't like them together? That's kind of how I felt with this book. I was never really grossed out by the whole like student teacher dynamic because it was in a college, so like they are older, but then when they got together it did feel gross, and I was like, oh, I don't know, it was like all this slow burn just for them to be together, and like me to then like sort of change my opinion on the teacher and be like, he is actually kind of slimy. I don't know, it made me feel very weird. And I believe there is a sequel to the book, and I was like, I won't be reading that. Like, I've actually had more than enough of these people. I think that is one that I would still maybe recommend to people. I definitely understand why people liked it. That's where we get into the controversial stuff, guys. The next book series that BookTok absolutely loves, of course, and I really didn't, is the ACOTAR series. When I read ACOTAR, it was the only Sarah J Maas book I have ever read. Now I'm going to be talking about this and thinking about this from the perspective of someone who read the entire Throne of Glass series and absolutely adored it. So before you guys get too mad, I definitely am talking about this now with the perspective of someone who did love another Sarah J Maas series and definitely could see myself maybe trying to reread ACOTAR or give it another chance now that I know Sarah J Maas's writing a wee bit better and I really like it. I kind of know maybe what to expect a wee bit more with her books. The first book I remember reading and being incredibly bored by. Here's the thing, I am like a romance girl. That's sort of like my comfort zone. That's what I know, that's what I love. And I have read fantasy books that I've absolutely adored. For example, Throne of Glass. But I could read 10 romance books that are basically the same in different fonts and enjoy them all very much. I can't do that with fantasy, and fantasy books need to genuinely stand out to me so much, and I need to really enjoy the aesthetic of it. I don't really like sort of any sort of fantasy book. I really need to like the vibes and the aesthetic. And one thing that just doesn't do it for me in fantasy books is fairies or fae. I don't know what it is. They just don't do it for me. I don't care about them. And I know they are obviously involved in Throne of Glass, but I remember loving that because of like the whole witch element of it. Like that's the kind of vibes and aesthetic I like. Fae bore me. I'm so over them. And I kind of discovered that when I was reading ACOTAR. It just really didn't capture me. I read the second book and I remember kind of rushing through it almost genuinely because I was so bored by it. And when I finished it, I was just like, this series like isn't for me. Obviously so disappointed because I know how much people love the series. And now even looking back to it and I'm like thinking of how great Throne of Glass was, and it makes me think, well, I should give that another chance because I want to like have the same feeling that I had reading Throne of Glass. That's one that I think I might give another chance because like I said, loved Throne of Glass so much and I'd love to like experience those vibes again. I get so much FOMO. I'd love to be in like the hype and love it as much as you guys do. But yeah, that was a book series that when I started it I was like, I hate this, and I've not gone back to it since. So you guys can let me know if you think it will get better for me, if I should give it another chance, or maybe if I didn't connect with it in the first couple of books, will I actually ever connect to it. Last but not least, I'm scared to talk about this because I remember this was a controversial one on TikTok. Spoke about this and then I very quickly never spoke about it again. This means a lot to people and I do get it, and once again I wanted to feel the same, I just didn't. And I'm going to be talking about Saving and Redeeming 6 by Chloe Walsh. Let me just preface this by saying Binding and Keeping 13 I adored. Literally life-changing books, 6-star books. Never cried so much in my life. Was so unbelievably excited for Saving and Redeeming 6. I was obsessed with Joey and Aoife just from like what I'd seen of their little cameos in the first 2 books, and I was like, I'm gonna love this. And very quickly I just did not feel that way about those books whatsoever. And here's the hill I'll die on. It's that I love Joey Lynch so much as a brother and as an individual, but not as a boyfriend. I knew going into this that there would be a lot of sort of like back and forth between him and Aoife, because obviously I knew a wee bit of their story as well. I knew like Joey's problems and stuff. What I didn't expect was just like how much it would piss me off. Joey, honestly, I just felt like was a horrible boyfriend, and everyone's gonna be like, he had problems. I know, and I still think he was absolutely horrible. And I think on the other side of that, it really wound me up because once again, I was obsessed with Aoife. Really wound me up how this girl, all she did was like beg him to stay with her and beg him not to leave and beg him not to do this and not do that. I remember just being like, you know, stand up, like, what are you doing? She was a great person, and I was like, what are you doing? I get the point of the story. I get that they're like love standing by each other and her standing by him after everything he went through. Like, I get that's why they had a happy ending. It was just absolutely painful to read about, and I hated it, and it pissed me off the entire time. So glad they got their happy ending. I truly am. Like, me talking about them as though they're real people. They're not. But I am happy for them, like, as fictional characters. But the actual process of it, I think if I didn't love the first two books as much as I did, I would have DNF'd it like 100%. I remember posting TikToks and being like, should I DNF it? Like, I was genuinely seriously considering it because they're big books as well, and I was like, this is painful, and I'm hating every single second of it. The whole begging him to stay with you and like putting up with that kind of treatment. Aoife Malloy, you are a better woman than me, and that's all I'll say. Like, I was pissed off and I wouldn't have done it, but I respect her for doing it. So that is like probably my most controversial take, is I hated those two books as someone who literally adored the first two books in the series. And since then I've actually not continued the series. I didn't read Claire and Gibbs's book, and I didn't read Lizzie's book either. I do believe Saving and Redeeming 6, they were written after Chloe Walsh, I believe she lost a child, so she has like written in those acknowledgements that like her writing is completely changed and stuff. Totally understand that, but I just don't think the series is for me anymore. I feel like I kind of got what I needed to get out of it in the first two books, but I can breathe now because that's me got this all off my chest. That's all the books that really disappointed me, that are so beloved in the BookTok world and just the book world in general. Sorry, I guess is what I would say. I'd love to know if you guys have any books like this that you expected to love and you didn't, or everyone loves and you didn't. Please let me know. We can have a little moan in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I will see you next week for another video. Bye.